Or onto inking.
or refining the drawing. I don't know how if I call it inking already, but I'm gonna do the.
Is this the sketch part of it? Like we did
Yes.
layouts,
Yeah.
now sketching. All
Yeah.
right.
This is a sketch. Wait. This is.
So in terms of finding artists, how do you go about that? Is it personal contacts or online?
So the first book, I actually stole Travis's artist that he uses on one of his books, Voodoo Nations. I used his penciler and colorist for our first issue. But honestly,
that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. Go with the tried and true. It's worked for him, and hopefully it'll work for me. And for the first issue, it did. But Facebook, man, Facebook and Instagram, people are posting, looking for work all the time. They post their portfolios, and I've been blessed to find a number of incredibly talented international artists to work with that are just a joy. For the third issue, my penciler is from Indonesia. My colorist is from Nigeria.
Wow.
And through the magic of the internet, we're able to collaborate on this project together, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've so similar story here, but I haven't. You've gone in a totally different part of the world than I have. I've worked with artists from Brazil and Argentina and Italy, but I haven't Indonesia and all that is foreign to me so far. But that's pretty cool. It's crazy how connected we can be now.
Really makes the world feel a lot smaller than it actually is. Yeah.
And you realize, you think, oh, maybe stuff doesn't translate and this and that. It's we all have McDonald's. It's all.
Yeah, exactly. Different menu, same restaurant.
Yeah, we all have a version of the same thing. We're living the same life, even though we all have our differences. But I think we all.
But also in that respect, it's cool to see an international kind of translation, like the way they interpret what you're writing in the script, like how they interpret it on the page is somewhat different than I might have envisioned originally, but it works. I like to see their interpretation of my story, and yeah, it's been cool, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's wild how, yeah, exactly. Like when you write it down and you're like, you have this vision in your head and you get something back that's entirely like not what you expected. It's a joy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my wife it's almost like Christmas morning every day that I wake up and I have a new page in my inbox. I get all giddy, open the page and look at it. I'm showing her my artwork, and it's fun. It's just something cool.
For sure. It's a gift you give yourself through the artist. We put folks like Roberto to work, and then we reap all the rewards.
Exactly. So how long have you guys known each other?
How long has it been?
Since maybe October almost a year.
Almost a year now, yeah. So Roberto was the one that extended the olive branch. So we met in the comics launch course there, and found out that we were both relatively close to one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I made the drive to Niagara, and then we met, had a coffee, and went from there. We've been to a couple shows together now, so that's been neat. And so it's been. It's time flies. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a year.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. So have you been doing any shows yet, or is that?
No, not yet. That's coming. There's a local show in October that I just applied for a table. We're probably going to do. It's a smaller show to get our feet wet a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, what's the big one there? MegaCon?
Orlando MegaCon is the big one, yeah. And I think it gets earlier and earlier every year. It used to be late May. I think now it's like early February, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, but we're probably going to miss that one. But yeah, Melbourne Toy and Comic Con in Melbourne, Florida.
Nice.
I think it's like October 14th or something like that. It's a smaller show, but yeah, we'll get our feet wet and see how we do and go from there.
Amazing. Yeah, I recommend that starting small, right? Because the table fees start to get really intense as you get bigger, and then now you're chasing the table, right? Hoping that you'll make that money back this weekend, and then that can really very quickly put a damper on things.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I think Roberto had a much better show than I did at the last one in his hometown in Niagara. That was a relatively slow show, but yeah, and then the whole weekend. Oh, I hope a couple more people show up so I can make table. So yeah, starting at a smaller show is highly recommended.
Yeah, the thing that saved me was the originals, the original art sale, because if not, I didn't sell any book.
Yeah, it was a pretty slow event over there. But yeah, that's it's sometimes it's the catch seems to be not every show that calls itself Comic Con is for comics, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's cosplay focused. Sometimes it's cards. I went to another show recently that was like Pokemon cards, not like Magic, not anything else, not sports cards, like Pokemon specifically.
Wow.
Graded Pokemon cards.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so like me with my comics, I did okay. I made tables, that's about it. So it was an afternoon of just feeling like you're somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed with Orlando MegaCon too. Years ago, I remember going. 2015, George Perez was there, and he was doing $25 sketches.
Oh wow!
And it was heavily comic books, and now it's probably 60-40 in favor of anime, cosplay, cards, all that stuff versus the comics, which is cool. But I'm there for the comic books myself.
Same, right? I think that's consistent with what we were thinking. But yeah, yeah, the anime and stuff. Like again, I'm here for it. Like I understand why people are into it, but it does feel like it's pushing the comics section into the corner a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I know MegaCon. So our big show here, Fan Expo Canada, is the same organization as MegaCon. Right. Do they do the sketch duels and all that stuff there as well, or is that something?
Sketch duels? They do artists, all that stuff.
Right on. Yeah, here they've actually, so the one thing that's benefited the Toronto one is it's separated into two buildings. Like our convention center is too small, so there's a north and a south building. So all the comics are in the south building with the video games, and then all the tattoo artists and the cosplay and the celebrities, they're all in the north building.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, there's a nice like separation between the two, so you're not getting, like, if you're there for comics, there's a good chance you'll run into people that are there for comics. It's good in that sense. I've wanted to check out MegaCon for a while because I've heard it's the biggest one.
It's huge, man. It's worth going to. If you have the opportunity, definitely go for the full 4-day weekend just so you can experience all of it. It's overwhelming if you're trying to do it all in one day, for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Don't they get something like 200,000 or 180,000 people, like that, something like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. In
a
hot building in the middle of the summer.
Maybe that's why they're moving it up to get a little more.
Probably. Yeah, instead of 95 degrees, it's 87 degrees.
Yeah, maybe you can breathe a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, okay. So, small shows make sense. And you mentioned that you started in December. Was that the beginning of your comics journey, or is that just like the beginning of Kickstarter?
The Kickstarter funded in December. It actually ended on Christmas Day of last year.
Oh, wow.
Probably wasn't the best day to have.
Yeah, that's brave. Yeah.
The campaign. People are spending time with their family. I'm hoping they're kicking me money back on Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's fair.
Spending that Christmas money on my book. But no, we started probably around May or June of last year working on the book and getting in with the artists and getting the layouts ready and all that stuff. So it was a good 6 months for that first issue.
Right on. Okay, so you're like a year and a bit into this whole game now.
Yeah.
Right on. But yeah, it sounds like you're going a whole different direction in terms of just, it's not just comics, it's everything, right?
At least for this issue, yeah, because like I said, it's a very music-centric book. It's about a folk duo, and I'm trying to build like a whole universe around this story. So the album that appears in the book, we wanted to have the actual jacket available for sale with the book, and just snowballed from there, man. We did the tour poster, tour shirts, all that stuff. We put like tour dates on there with different cities.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it inspires itself. Seems like there's a lot of fertile ground there to come up with all these different approaches for it instead of just, here's the book, I hope you like it.
Yeah, it definitely brings up creativity in everyone. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's awesome. And then, so this is number 3, you said. Is there plans to just do this ongoing, or do you have a definitive end? What's the thought there?
No, we're just thinking ongoing, and then maybe branching out from there, introducing characters in the book to maybe have their own ongoing series, like how Marvel used to do in the 70s. Characters would appear in a special Marvel edition or Marvel premiere, and then they'd have their own book. So we're kicking around the idea of that. We have a superhero story in mind for one of the later issues of Toxic Bond, and then if that does well, maybe have our own superhero series based on that book, that sort of thing. But yeah, we're just focused on the one title right now. I'm working on another book right now with another artist, preliminary stages. And yeah, just see how we do, see how it goes on Kickstarter, go from there.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it, right? Like, I find if you don't have a couple plates spinning, right? Like you'll not that you'll get tired of it, but like it's hard to keep pushing in the same direction constantly. So if you do have something else that's cooking, you can think beyond the current project, especially with Kickstarter, which can be a kind of a draining process, especially if it's not going as quickly as you'd hoped. Or
oh yeah, man, that's the thing too. It's like I'm terrible at marketing myself. I try my best on social media, but I'm not a pitchman.
Hey, you know what? Hey, you seem very game for it. Like the fact that you jumped on with us, it tells us a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
And you had your pitch ready. That's really good.
Yeah, we didn't have to tease that out of you. You had it like ready to go. So don't sell yourself short. You seem pretty good.
All right. Well, I'll take word for it. Appreciate it.
Yeah. But yeah, the social media, it's tough. Like I try to be everywhere. There's tools to do that. I'm not actually everywhere. It's crazy to try to be everywhere. So I usually fashion a couple different types of posts, and then I got my videos and then my images and whatever, and there's appropriate socials for each. But
yeah.
Am I active on all of them? Not always. If you reach out to me, I respond, but I'm not generally like going through Twitter and going through Instagram and going through TikTok. Yeah. That's a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
I was never a huge social media person before the comics. Occasionally I'd post a nature pic or a bird pic or something like that. But now I'm tags and think of different groups and stuff. It's like a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's almost like diminishing returns too. Like you can go nuts on social and spend all day there, and then you're only talking to the same people. You can only go so far with it. It's really more about like building that community, like people that are fans of you, that have backed your Kickstarter or want to, right? Maybe they haven't, for whatever reason. But those are the people that you want to cultivate because they actually care. Right? Exactly. Somebody who just clicks like on your post, like they've forgotten about you because they scrolled to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah.
Right. It's it's good to get your name out a little bit, but that's about it. Like diminishing returns for sure. Yeah. So don't beat yourself up about that. But you got the key thing down, which is having your pitch on the tip of your tongue, knowing what your story's about.
You'd be shocked. All times. It's in the holster. Yep.
Yeah, you'd be shocked how difficult that is for some, myself included. I'm not always the best at. It takes me a second to rev up to tell you what if it's not the current one. Like you're at a table at a con, and what's this one about? Let me think back. Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago.
Right. I feel like I have to. I feel like I have to edit out what I said about myself when I introduced at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, it's a skill, but again, you're good. Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. You got it down.
And if not, you can say it was the other Daniel Torres.
Exactly.
They made me look bad. Yeah.
I have an easy cop out, thankfully.
Oh goodness. All right, we got some real good progress here. I'm always impressed, and then it just becomes me fawning over Roberto's work. So.
Oh, yeah. If it were me, it would be stick figures at this point, honestly.
Yeah, perspective be damned. It's right. Have you dabbled in art at all? Have you tried? Or
not really. I've had a couple guys tell me that they've learned in the last year. They've just spent hours every night drawing, teaching themselves, and I don't know, man. It doesn't feel like something I have in my holster at all. But I haven't really tried either, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear that. It's if you don't push yourself to do it, you'll never get better at it, kind of thing. And if you don't have that, like you said, it's just not there, then that's your answer, right?
I don't know. I've been drawing since I was a kid. And my father used to draw too, but I've known over the years a lot of people that didn't draw at all and started later in life, and they become really good. So talent in the end, I think, is like curiosity, or it's not like when you have to develop it. It's wanting to know or wanting to learn. That's the skill. That's the real talent. To
It's
have
the motivation is the talent.
Yes,
it's not the mechanics of it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be like in a mood to fail fast, to learn from your mistakes, to get into the habit of doing the thing that you want to learn. And it doesn't matter if you fail at first, you have to keep doing it. And that's the way you learn. Okay, from the experience of doing it, you just start doing distinctions about the thing that you wouldn't understand if you weren't doing it. So it's learning by doing is the thing, right?
Yeah. And I think that applies to writing as well. I don't know
sure.
your experience,
Yes.
Daniel. You jump into short stories and they're awful. And then people tell you they're awful, and you're like, all right, maybe I'm not cut out for this, but you keep doing it.
Yes.
And then, right?
Yeah.
Eventually.
And that the resilience at the end is the talent, because someone else can start writing or drawing, and at the beginning it's not what they expected, and they quit.
That's it. Yeah. I didn't get instant results. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's discipline. Discipline's the true talent, is being able to stick with something and make something of it.
Oh, absolutely, man. I've seen Alex Ross. He's posted pictures of his childhood drawings versus his masterpieces now. And it's, man, if he was able to do it, I have to have a modicum of talent to get an iota of his masterful works. But I don't know. I haven't tried. Maybe one of these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Right, so it's like we are doing with this podcast. We are going to fail at the beginning, and we'll keep doing it.
Yes, we'll get a lot better with the questions and the entertaining gossip. Thank you for making us look good, because you've been...
Yeah. I'm happy to be learning right along with you guys.
Right on. So I find the one thing about at least learning the mechanics of art, like, it does help with writing comics. Like, at least you, to a degree, you know it's possible, right? You're not asking for the moon, right?
Yes. You know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you speak the language a little bit. Again, I'm pretty sparse in how I give direction in my scripts anyway. And yeah, Roberto, I'm pretty, like, based on the covers you've done for me, I was just, can you do this? Yeah, cool. Right? I don't prescribe too much. But I do find that it helps. I do find it helps a lot if you at least know the language. You don't necessarily have to know how to do it yourself, but you have an idea of, like, when you say this is the result you're going to get, right? It definitely helps for comics in particular.
Yeah, the whole script writing thing was interesting, because the closest I had really gotten to comic book script writing prior to this was playwriting. I had written a couple of one-act plays for a local playhouse that I had submitted to them, and leaving enough room for the artist to do his stuff, for the lettering, and trying to find that happy medium between, am I overly describing what's going on, or am I not describing it enough for them to understand my vision? It's been an interesting process, but it's cool. It's cool to see the interpretation of the artist and the letterer and the colorist collaborating with these words that are written out.
Yeah, for sure. And it changes with the artist too. Like, I find some don't want anything, right? They're just like, just give me the idea. Give me the feeling you're going for here, right? And then others are like, no, I need to know specifically who's standing where, what are they doing, right? And it's tough when you're dealing with artists you've never worked with, to strike that balance. So I always have to, I don't know about you, but I always do like a caveat where it's, okay, I wrote full script, I gave you a little more description than I might. I trust you to take it your own way. Don't take this as gospel.
Yeah, that's pretty much been my experience too.
Yeah, it's everybody has their strengths, and the artist is the storyteller at the end of the day. Like, you're building the plot and the characters and that, but at the end of the day, it's the artist that's telling the story. So if they have any experience in doing it, like they're going to be able to say, you know what, this doesn't, the way you wrote it and the way it's going to look maybe don't sync. So so let me tweak this, tweak that. Said, like I would say 98% of what I've written ends up pretty much on the page, but the odd time it'll be like a subtle change and it's, oh my goodness, yes, that's so much better than how I was thinking.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, it's an interesting skill. And again, with comics, I always find it interesting that it's Grant Morrison's new X-Men, but he's half of it and it gets all the credit.
Yeah, I had read something a couple years back, I guess, that when Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder were working on their New 52 Batman together, I guess they got into it because Snyder was overly writing in too much detail and what he wanted Capullo to draw, and Capullo was like, just let me do my thing. I'm a master. Let me work.
Yeah, he was, apparently it was, so I he was at Fan Expo last month, so I went to his panel and Scott Snyder was, and yeah, he mentioned that story. And he said he was very strict and precious with his script. And Capullo was like, just, again, give me the idea. Like he was used to the Marvel method, right? Tell me what, I can do this. Just tell me kind of what you want. And he's, no, wait, I'm giving you full script. I'm telling you what I want in each panel. And apparently they told them to stop talking to each other because they were worried the book was going to implode. And then they hashed it out over a phone call, and now they're like a legendary duo.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how that works out. And they had DC mediating. Imagine if your artist from Indonesia had that feeling about you, you would just never hear from them again.
Exactly. Yeah. Block, ghost.
Right. Definitely a balance that has to be struck there, because we don't have the Warner Brothers money holding us together.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a relationship that you have to cultivate. But for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing. I let them work as long as it's not drastically different from my vision. I let them interpret it however they want. And for the most part, it's worked out and it's looked great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes my tweaks are even just, sometimes I have the odd, hey, this panel feels like it's backwards or something like that. I've had the odd time like that where you cross the axis. That's a big thing in film where they look like they're facing the same direction. So that's been the odd thing that I've come up with. But other than that, and it's usually at the layout stage where it's like, hey, before you lock this down,
exactly,
this looks odd. It's like, oh yeah, whoops. But that's as artistic as I get.
Yeah, same, man. Honestly, yeah. Who am I to tell them how to do their job?
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know what you're doing. I'll let you do it. You did mention that you letter as well, or you always hire out the lettering?
Yeah, so for the first issue, I hired out a letterer, and then I just tried to teach myself, honestly, as like a cost-saving method, but also as a way to diversify my skills in the comic book industry also. And it's been fun, man. It's been fun. It's challenging to figure out, all right, what do I have room for? Where's this bubble going? What kind of sound effect am I putting here? And so I'm still learning. I'm still very much a beginner, but it's been serviceable, I think, for the first couple issues we've put out.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's a great opportunity for the final draft, I find, right? Again, speaking about the artist knowing the story better than you sometimes, like you've put in all this dialogue to explain something and they get it with a panel. And it's okay, we can wipe all that away, right? Don't need to explain that anymore. And you can do that.
What do you feel? It's like a debate. I don't know if it's running. At least it was a debate in Argentina, where I'm from. That what do you think about you have to be able to understand what happened only with the art without reading the balloons? Do you agree, or do you think that the balloons, it has to carry the same weight as the art to tell the story, or is the balloons are just adding a different facet, or adding some
spice to it?
Yeah, personally, I think you should be able to figure out what's going on without the bubbles, right? I think the bubbles definitely add to the story and help flesh it out and make it this complete picture. But I think for the most part, with sequential storytelling, you should be able to have an idea of what's going on without the bubbles. So that's actually something we're working on right now. We're doing a Christmas anthology. We're calling it Silent Night. And the goal was to do like 3 12-page stories with no dialogue, and to be able to tell a story without any dialogue. So each story has a song that it's centered around. Like Silent Night is one of the songs. One of the other ones is like The First Noel. And so that's kind of taking us through the story, but there isn't any dialogue throughout the 12-page story, just storytelling in the song.
Right on. Yeah, that's clever.
The song is a song. How do you? The title is the title of the song, and you have to listen. You have to know it, or is it written on the panels?
The lyrics are written throughout the panels, but there's no dialogue between any of the characters that are interacting with one another. So it's just a song taking you through the story, basically, like a living Christmas carol, if you will.
Nice.
Yeah, sounds cool.
So it's like interpreting it as you go through. Nice. Yeah, I think you nailed it. You should be able to get the gist of it, right? By just looking at the art, and then the dialogue and the captions, if you have those, really add. That's like your subtext and your context for everything. But the art is the key, right? That's your main through line. If that doesn't make sense, you try to letter your way out of some confusing art.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But it's
the same with anything. I can watch Pulp Fiction on mute and have an idea of what's going on, but
yeah,
I'm gonna miss out on all the snappy dialogue, the classic one-liners, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's the flavor. It's the flavor of the book.
Right.
Although some would argue that's also the art. So we work in a visual medium.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about like Tom King style captions? Do you use them? Do you hate them?
I don't hate them, but I have to be in the mood to read them because I feel like it's versus if I'm reading Kirkman or I'm reading Donny Cates, where it's very snappy, it's very quick. You can read an issue of The Walking Dead in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same commitment with a Tom King book at all. I feel like it's all right. I have to be in the mood for this. I have to set aside time to read this. But
have to handle.
yeah,
yeah.
His miracle, his vision. The guy is incredible at what he does. It's not for everybody, I get that, but it's one of those things that I just have to be in the mood for.
Yeah. I feel like it depends on the story, right? Some call for it. Like his Human Target was incredible. That was like probably one of my favorite books of the past few years. Where Wonder Woman recently has been very good, but it's almost like if you were to ignore those captions, you might have even a better story than what you're getting, right? Like
right.
It's almost taking away from the core story because it's doing this dual. The captions are one story and the dialogue and the art is another. You're detracting from it a little bit. It's a tool like anything else that could be used incorrectly at times, but it's subjective. Maybe somebody's really into that style. But yeah, again, it's it depends how it's used. I've loved it in certain books and others not so much.
Yeah, no, 100% for sure.
Do you find you use them in your own work, or not being familiar with it, having just met you an hour ago now? But
to be honest, no, not really, man. With the book that's out on Kickstarter right now, we have dialogue, obviously, but there aren't a ton of captions. There's no internal monologue. For the most part, the panels where there is no dialogue, we're just allowing the art to breathe and speak for itself, and allow you to figure out what's going on without kind of hand-holding you through the scene.
Nice.